What is going on, guys? I am back at the homestead after about 2.5, 3 weeks back in the States visiting family. I am awestruck and inspired and just taken aback by how much things have changed, how much plants have grown. So yeah, there's a lot to show you guys, so much to do. I just watched a toucan fly overhead. We're back in the tropics, life is lovely, and yeah, let's get right into it. So we're starting here at the bottom of the slope garden. These Mexican sunflowers here have just taken off. So before I left for the States, I did a big prune. A lot of things got chopped and kind of my philosophy shifted here with the garden. Where I used to be growing a lot of food plants, I'm kind of shifting now towards focusing on building soil because there's so much development that needs to happen here with the quality of the soil in order to support plants that produce delicious food. Mexican sunflowers are a huge focus of that. These beautiful plants are super resilient, drought tolerant, they accumulate nutrients, and then you can chop them and drop them. You put that on the ground and it decomposes and creates beautiful soil. Really exciting to see them growing so well. They have these beautiful yellow flowers. Now check this out. Here we've got some mushrooms growing. So one of the beautiful things about having these Mexican sunflower type plants that can grow really quickly and get really big, that they help keep this soil nice and moist and shaded out so that tropical sun isn't beating down on these. If we go over here, different kind of mushrooms growing here, more growing there. As much as I want to grow food and medicine, I'm really in the business of growing soil, of taking care of the soil ecosystem here, and then building on top of that with the right plants at the right times. But okay, so we're making our way to the top of the slope garden. It's almost too difficult now to walk in from the other entrance, so we'll do a little pan around here and show you guys what's going on. This place is looking so different from when I left. All of the okra, except for this one, which I propped up on the trellis. Look at all of those pods up there. But all the other ones have fallen down. They got a little bit too big. Oh, look, lizard. Hey, buddy. What's going on? Now over here, what I did right before I left is I planted Mexican sunflower in these rows. But in this center row here, I put some other types of plants. So here we have gandules, which is growing. This is annual Mexican sunflower, which produces a beautiful red flower. So this is just your classic Italian basil, great for making that delicious pesto. And then over there is holy basil, which is a wonderful medicinal plant. Makes a beautiful, delicious tea. And then we've also got a rose de Jamaica. And then if we pay a little bit more attention to what's going on here in the slope garden, here's amaranth growing really well. Tomatoes that are starting to sprawl here. They look decently healthy. I'm kind of surprised. All of the food plants I put here in the past really just didn't like it. The soil I just don't think is good enough yet. Another big tomato right here, leaning against this other fallen okra. Love to see it. Teamwork makes the dream work. And then over here, I don't know what's in here. Oh, looks like we got another set of okra. Now here I did a bunch of beans, but yeah, all of the beans are getting chewed up by bugs. When I first started the gardens, beans were like the main crop. I put them everywhere, just sowing black beans from the grocery store. And they grew really well and they produced a lot of beans, but it looks like there were so many that they created a habitat for bugs. The predator for those bugs hasn't made its way into the food chain quite yet. It's not in this ecosystem, it seems like. So those bugs are just having a field day and feasting on all of the beans that I've been planting. In the middle garden here, which is around a guanabana tree, which is kind of covered up by this Mexican sunflower now. There was tons of flowers here before I left, and it looks like just about all of them have fallen over. So I might try moving those back into the circle of the garden so that we can hopefully get the seeds from those flowers to go back into the garden and kind of perpetuate themselves. Here we've got 2 okra that have also fallen down. And then here, there's a beautiful rose de Jamaica, or a cranberry hibiscus, as some call it, that's doing really well, but it's also toppled over. So we'll have to see what we can do about that. Now over here, I had some beans that were getting a second flush. They were producing again. So it looks like they're just all about died back. And we'll see if they actually ended up producing any beans that are any good. In this middle row, I put some peppers and a couple of other things, and they all seem to be doing all right. They haven't gotten chewed up. So we've got peppers here. Yeah, some more flowers around. This is an annual Mexican sunflower again. There's a bean that just sprouted up on its own. And now right over here, we've got the banana patch. So these 3 bananas have grown quite a bit. They almost look like they're like double in size since I left. Really incredible. So they're getting a big growth spurt here, looking lovely. Sweet potato that's on the ground here. It all starts from just one sweet potato right there. And it is doing great, really starting to grow. So these will be awesome greens for a salad. And then they'll also root as they move along the ground and produce sweet potatoes everywhere. Oh, look at this nice looking mushroom right here. The mushrooms are a great sign that the soil is doing well. If you can support fungal life, you are going in the right direction. Now over here, we've got the root garden. I used to have food plants in a couple of circles at the front, but all the food plants got taken out and it's all been replaced with Mexican sunflower. Most of them have caught. They're looking good. The one over here died though, we'll have to redo that one. And then the one in here is getting pretty covered, but it looks like it's still alive. And then we've got yucca, which has just exploded, looking wonderful. Really big and lush. That produces a delicious root crop. And then here's tequisque, which is another root crop, beautiful leaves, and they're doing well. And then as you can see, there's just a mat of sweet potato now. I probably have like 6 plantings of sweet potato in here, and they have just gone crazy since I left. And then going away from the root garden, up over here on the slope, there's all of these trees that were just wild, that grew here on their own while no one was living in this area, in this cabina, for like 6 years. They took off, formed huge trees, and I pruned them when I first got here, and then realized that all of them just sprout back like nothing happened. So this is what I call the hummingbird tree. It's called firebush, is one of the nicknames, and it's just a wonderful plant. It sprouts back incredibly well, loves to get a nice prune, and it produces tons of biomass. It looks like I'll be able to chop these about every 2 to 3 months and get a ton of material to mulch the garden with. Oh, look at those birds. Never a dull day in the tropics here. It's just beautiful to be so surrounded by nature, and yeah, just there's subtle things that it does to your psyche that I'm noticing more and more over time, with how it just gets you to feel a bit more gratitude on a regular basis, which is just wonderful for peace of mind and quality of life, to just have all of these reasons, especially since I'm new to the tropics and grew up in a temperate climate, these reasons to be like stopped in your tracks and just revel in what you're witnessing, whether it's monkeys climbing through the trees around you, or beautiful birds, or hearing the song of a toucan. Yeah, I feel very grateful and very glad to be able to share it with you. I'm glad we got those birds flying overhead. Good timing. But all right, before we leave the slope garden, last thing. So here, right past these long beds, there's a little corner plot, a little triangle plot, and I put a bunch of transplants in there before I left. And most of them seem to be doing pretty well, especially the amaranth. These plants seem to love the climate and the soil, so I think I'm going to be planting a lot more of these. Amaranth is a neat crop. You can make a cool like porridge with it. It's a great source of protein, and apparently you can eat the leaves while they're young like this, as the plant's growing, like a salad green as well. But yeah, we've also got, here's a comfrey doing okay. These seem to get chewed up by the grasshoppers. They seem to like the comfrey. But if we could get any of these established, that would be incredible. Comfrey is another incredible biomass crop. It's really good to improve the soil. It sucks up nutrients from deep down, brings them up into its leaf and tissue growth, so you can chop it and lay it as mulch. It's also very medicinal. It's great for using for aches and pains as a topical, basically. You don't really want to eat it. Great for pollinators. So all around, wonderful plant. But we'll see if it survives here. So here's some Italian basil. Lovely, smells like some pesto pasta. But yeah, that's the slope garden, guys. Things have changed quite a bit since I left. A lot of growth, and just one more appreciation moment for these Mexican sunflowers. I mean, look at that. Now we are gonna make our way up to the main garden. So a really neat thing that happened kind of unexpected development before I left was that I took down the wall that used to enclose the main garden, expecting to replace that wall with a line of Mexican sunflower. But once the wall was down, I realized that there was way more space to work with. So I ended up making a whole patch of Mexican sunflower, and let's check it out. So initially what was going to be just one row of Mexican sunflower became a cool little patch. All of them have grown quite a bit in these past 2 weeks. They all look like they're taken really well. And then right before I left, I scattered a bunch of chia on the ground. As you can see, it was a little bit finicky with sprouting. Definitely didn't work everywhere, but we do have some green here, which is nice. I want to cover this soil. I might put some sweet potatoes in here as well. But all right, yeah, so now we have this new fertility patch, which one day in the future might become a food garden. But for now, we're just going to build mulch and improve this soil. Now, if we swing on over to the main garden, a lot has happened here. So this is the first bed I ever built. And in the beginning, there was a good amount of sunflower, there was beans all along the edge, and then some random plants in the middle. But holy basil really decided to call it home. And just one plant that was like right in this area has completely taken over this bed, and I love it. But now I've got some other plants that are starting to take hold as well. This rose de Jamaica, which looks really healthy. Over here, we've got amaranth getting chewed up a bit, but still alive. Here we've got an okra that also fell down. And she is resting on two pretty big pepper plants. Tons of peppers growing on it. They are the spicy variety though. Some more amaranth here. Now we'll pan around to the hugelkultur, my pride and joy of this garden. Took me weeks to put this together, but this is a hugelkultur that goes down into the ground. I dug a pit about, I think it was like 1.5 feet, and then I filled it up until it was like a foot or so above ground. So there's like 2.5, 3 feet of mostly organic matter, huge tree trunks, leaves, green plant cuttings, all sorts of stuff. Now this used to be absolutely full with life, but it's gone through quite the evolution in the short time that it's been here. And now it's kind of getting overgrown with weeds. So we'll have to figure out what to do about that. But I did try and do a lot of transplants before I left, and not all of them are taking. So we have some cool flowers here. They look okay. But here's a rose de Jamaica that the leafcutter ants decided to chow down on. I'm not totally sure why though, because then if we go right over here, we have another rose de Jamaica that looks okay. So go figure. We've also got a red okra right here. These are some sort of like South American or Central American spinach. Here we've got another regular okra growing. These, I don't even remember what these are, to be honest with you. They might be some sort of flower. Here's an annual Mexican sunflower with a neat looking bug on her. A red okra that got totally chewed up. Another red okra not doing great. Oh, no, that's a regular one, but yeah, also totally chewed up. Here used to be a pepper plant, no longer. Some buckwheat, clearly not happy, but flowering. I do have a holy basil, which has survived. This was one of the first things planted, and she is still here, smelling delicious. Another rose de Jamaica here. More of that spinach, another annual Mexican sunflower. And then this, I think this is called Ichi something. It grows like a nut-like fruit seed, and clearly it wants to vine, so I'll have to put something here to give her some place to grow. Look at this. This looks like it could have been, yeah, a rose de Jamaica, another cranberry hibiscus that just got totally devoured. So there are a lot of lessons to be learned here. Things are definitely not going great. Kind of to be expected with how crappy the soil is, but I need to think about what I can do to help these gardens in their process of evolution to turning into more fertile and abundant ecosystems. But they're going to need a lot of work and a lot more plants to get in the ground that are meant to be here with this fertility level, with this kind of climate. So yeah, a lot to learn, a lot to figure out, but future's looking bright nonetheless. But yeah, here in the middle, we've got Mexican sunflowers that went in right when this hugelkultur was first built. And they used to be all the way to the top of the bamboo here with beautiful flowers, but I pruned these to get cuttings for that bed right there that I showed you guys earlier, and they are all sprouting back with vigor. So they're looking beautiful. But all right, over here, panning around to the garden extension. So here, this bed's an interesting one. I barely did anything to it. It's not that amended at all, and I wasn't sure what to put in there. So I sprinkled quite a few different kinds of seeds, but the ones that really thrived were these chia here. I just let them go crazy. I didn't really thin them out at all. There was definitely too many, but they've kind of figured it out, and they have beautiful flowers. This purple lilac sort of color, really gorgeous. And the pollinators absolutely love them. And then in these circle beds, we've now finally got Mexican sunflowers that look like they're gonna make it in all of them. So this will be more fertility for the gardens. And now here I've got these 3 beds here. Really all I did to amend the soil was just mix it with rice husks, which will over time help, but in the beginning they're not doing too much except for helping with drainage a bit. And I tried growing a bunch of different things in these, but none of it worked. I tried stinging nettle, alfalfa, and buckwheat and clover, and really none of it did well at all. So I kind of readjusted right before I left, and I put a bunch of annual Mexican sunflower transplants in these first 2 beds, and most of them seem to be doing well. Some are even flowering, which is a little bit strange. Nice shot of the butterfly. I would think that they're too small to be flowering already, and that could be because they're stressed out, or maybe they're not getting enough sun. I'm not sure. Or maybe they're fine. But yeah, they're growing, so that's great, and they're gonna help build that soil. But I do have mixed in here a couple other things. So we've got the gandules here. So I've got some on either end here doing well. And then in the middle here, I've got a regular okra, which is still alive. Hasn't been chewed up yet, so hopefully she survives and gets nice and established. And then over here in the second bed, also annual Mexican sunflower that I put in before I left. I tried growing beans here, but they got absolutely destroyed, unfortunately. But there's some sunflowers that I also put in here in the beginning, and they're still alive. Some more gandules, a different variety in the middle here. It's another sunflower here looking pretty good. And then in this bed, I tried growing a lot of clover. None of it did well. But here's another chia plant. I don't even know how it got here. It was accidental. I don't remember sprinkling chia here, but looking good. So more flowers for the pollinators, some roots underground doing their thing. And we've got more gandules. So I'm really excited to see the gandules doing well, because that not only is great at improving soil, but also produces a lot of food. So that's a really good crop to have. Nice combo crop, and yeah, stoked about those. Hopefully they continue to do well. But yeah, so there's the slope garden and the main garden. I got a couple more things to show you guys. So if we pan over here and make our way a bit down this alley, we end up in the Mexican sunflower forest. Just a baby forest for now, but soon to be huge. So I've put these in the ground. I think there's about 12 of them here, maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. And they all took, which I was really excited about. Sometimes the sticks, the cuttings you put in the ground, they'll mold over, or for whatever reason, they just won't survive. But all of these survived, and as you can see, they are doing quite well. They have probably, I don't even know, quadrupled in size since I left. So yeah, this has got me really excited. These plants too are just like very quickly becoming my best friends. They've been such a joy to work with. And they've also given me a much needed confidence boost. I came into this area around the cabina at first really pessimistic, because I didn't think there was any room to grow and there really wasn't any sun. But then as I started working with the land, there was phases where I was like really optimistic about things, and got pretty beat up when I realized that the soil is just really crappy and food producing plants just aren't too happy yet. So it was tough to see plants struggle. But these Mexican sunflowers have always just been growing so well and so easily for me, like they do for just about everyone who tries to work with them. So it's really been a huge confidence boost to make me feel like, hey, maybe I can be a farmer, just maybe. And yeah, and it's just good to know that I have a plant that I know can do a lot of good for this ecosystem, that can improve the soil and get me to where I want to go, being able to produce food while still being regenerative and working with the land and not against her and not extracting, but just finding a good balance of giving and taking. So yeah, it's been awesome to form a relationship with these plants. It's really cool to really start to feel like I have this kinship with this species of plant. But yeah, a lot of respect for these girls, and really happy to see them so happy. So now leaving Mexican Sunflower Alley down here, we see some stinging nettles that are growing wild. Now these will give you some mean irritation if you rub your hands on them or get pricked by them. But the incredible thing is that they are one of the best fertilizers for garden. Stinging nettles are incredibly good at picking up nutrients from the soil that other plants can't get to yet. They store it in their leaves and their stems, and you can turn that into a rich fertilizer for the garden. A lot of things that, at least in regular Western society, get taken as negatives, like weeds in your lawn or annoying plants that seem poisonous and irritating. The more you learn, the more you realize that everything has its place. Like everything is here for a reason, and there are good and bad attributes to it all. So from our perspective as humans, maybe these stinging nettles are a little bit annoying when we touch them, but in reality, they're a vital part of the ecosystem, and they do so much good. And it's really wonderful to learn more about them and see that relationship change, where I'm not annoyed by them. I'm actually really grateful to see them. I have so much gratitude for them being here. So yeah, we're gonna let these grow nice and big, do their thing, and I'll use them for fertilizer and let them keep on resprouting. So here we are at the side of the cabina. This area does not get much light at all. It also gets super waterlogged when it rains. It's nice to see that some grass is growing at the edge here. I'm gonna take you over to this bed and show you what's going on there in a second. But really quick, so here I made a new pit right before I left to keep on making compost from fish scraps that I get from a restaurant in town that I mix with wood chips, but my cover fell through while I was gone, so we'll have to take care of that, but things seem to be going well there. I have another compost pit over there with some stuff that should be getting pretty seasoned, and maybe in a few months or a couple months will be ready to go. And then here we've got a banana that's doing pretty well. All right, and the last thing to show you guys, the bamboo bed. This is a really recent addition and things are looking good. The soil is not that amended. There's rice husks and then there's some leaves, but really not much. So again, it's pretty crappy clay. It also came from holes, from the hole that was dug over there for the compost pit. So it's also really deep clay, which is probably even worse. But nonetheless, some things are growing, probably mostly because I amended the places where I planted with some good fertile soil mix. But yeah, let's show you around. So in the corners, I put some Mexican sunflower sticks, kind of as an afterthought. I wasn't really planning on that initially, but I had some extra cuttings during one of the times that I was propagating them, and I decided to throw some in here, and they are doing great. They have probably tripled in size since I left, and that's awesome. So now they'll be a cool little addition to add some texture to this garden, and again, also improve the soil and be mulch. But then, all right, so we've got a lot of this horizontal, and there's a bunch of those littered around. And then I had a row of beans that I put here as well, but the beans are just getting chewed up like crazy. They're all Swiss cheese. So I think this ecosystem is really gonna have to adapt before beans can survive again. And then in the middle here, we've got little amended planting holes, and we've got gandules here, pigeon pea. We got a flower I threw in the middle here. These are some more flowers. This looks like it's cosmos. I just sprinkled a bunch of seeds of different types and just to see what would work. And so here it looks like cosmos did well. There's more amaranth in this garden bed. Then we have sunflower growing here. A couple different varieties. They all seem to be doing pretty well. Sunflower usually gets completely destroyed by bugs. But these are growing, so that's great. We've got a red okra here, some gandules, more gandules here. Here's another flower patch, more gandules, another flower patch. You can see the pattern. This is more of that ichi nut, or whatever it's called. I think there's an ichi in it. And then in the back, we've got basically just annual Mexican sunflower and sunflowers alternating. Yeah, they seem to be doing all right. So this bed has got some life in it, which is great to see. I think it'll be pretty colorful and not too long when more of the flowers really take hold and grow. Here we've got some big Mexican sunflower bushes that are looking wonderful. So there's the update for you. Tons of growth. Beautiful to see things constantly evolving here. Not everything is 100% positive, but that's part of the journey of learning how to work with this land, how to read her and what's going on in this ecosystem, and always try to improve and kind of grow along with this ecosystem and keep on working to a state of more abundance and more happiness, enjoying life in the process of really engaging with nature. It's a wonderful thing. But yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for checking it all out. I'm gonna do a little bit of maintenance now, kind of clean up the garden, figure out what to do with all of that okra that toppled over, and get a bit more acquainted and really see what's going down. And yeah, say hi to all these plants again. So updates to come. Thanks for joining with the journey. And yeah, let's keep on growing. Ciao.